Hey, it's Rooted Black Girls with Farah and Afnan, representing everyday Black millennial women. And today, give me glory or give me Lori, whatever it was that Future said, we are breaking down the 5 tips that we have learned as Muslims from Lori Harvey. Sit back and write right out with us. Hey, Farah, good morning. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Alhamdulillah. I'm super excited for this episode. We dropped the title on Instagram and everybody's like, I've never heard what she sounds like.
I know. I had to go look on YouTube to be like, and what just to let everyone know, we will be discussing the finesse of Lori Harvey. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
And
super
so
excited.
yeah, I'm really excited about this topic. But when we dropped the Clubhouse topic last night, people were like, gang, I put a reminder on my phone. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, like we got to deliver.
Yeah, the notifications like kept going off. People were like, because what we put as a description is that we haven't heard her voice, but there's lots of lessons to learn, right? And so a lot of people were messaging like, "Damn, I haven't heard her voice." And when we were kind of planning this episode, you had kind of shared with us that she has like the allure of Beyonce back in the day when people didn't really know her and she hadn't really been doing her documentaries.
Yeah. So just to give you guys a little history about our girl Lori Harvey, I'm loving everything that's coming from her camp. She's 24 years old, or 24 years young, as we call it, right? And just has a finesse of I can't even quantify. And granted, I want to make a preface. I don't want to idolize her and her dating history, but she seems to have the game down locked. And I'm sure that there's been some turmoil in the relationship, but the way that she carries herself and her confidence, we decided to examine what's been going on, or at least what we get to see as a public, you know?
Right.
And so just to tell you guys more about her, she's 24 years old. She's the stepdaughter of Steve Harvey and the daughter of Marjorie Harvey. And
Right.
so she has a dating history that's wow. Wow, wow, wow. I think she has dated Meek Mill actually expressed his interest to her, but he never got her, I don't think.
On his
Future,
Christmas.
yes, his Christmas list. And then she did date Future. Future said, what did he say in one of his songs? He was like, give me glory, give me Lori. That's victory. So he ended up getting what he wanted.
Yes.
She's dated both Little Combs, the Son Combs, and P. Diddy, Sean Combs. She dated a soccer player. What's his name? Malcolm, is it? Let me look this. I gotta look this up, y'all. His name is Memphis Depay. Okay.
Yeah.
And then she's also dated Trey Songz. That's
Yeah.
what we're known about, right? And we've seen pictures. And then recently, there were some pictures being kind of thrown up in the late 2020 of her and our boy, the sexiest man alive in 2020, Michael B. Jordan, right?
Wow.
And then they were on a trip, a snow trip, and then posted these really cute like photos, and everyone died.
Everyone, everybody. And then the pet names too. I know you saw that.
What
Turtle and
are the pet
Nugget.
names? What are they?
Yes, so he calls her Turtle and she calls him Nugget. And the internet has been trying to figure out what the hell does that mean. And then the comments were like, she called Turtle because she got that snapper.
Oh girl, I don't know what she got. She's got the finesse,
She
she's got
got
the thought, she's
something.
got the confidence. And Afnan, we are going to break it down here because I got lessons to learn, and I'm definitely
Listen,
10 years her senior. Okay.
Listen, we love, so I put in the description that we're going to reverse engineer. Y'all know I love me some good steps, some
Yeah.
structure. Okay, so we're
Yeah.
about to get into it. There's 5 major tips and lessons learned that we really got when we like took a look like, okay, maybe her lifestyle doesn't match yours, whatever, but like you cannot deny, no matter where you are and what your personal beliefs are, that she does have some confidence about her. She's doing
Mhm.
something right. Okay,
Yeah.
she's doing something right. So
Mhm.
we're going to go into 5 tips. Super excited. So I'm going to jump into the very first one. So make sure you guys stick to the very end to get the 5th one. Okay. So the first one is that she clearly doesn't care about what people think. And I love this. I love this. Like she just turned 24 and the internet was going on about how, if Lori don't do anything, she's going to have a new man on her birthday, right?
Yeah.
Every year, right?
Yeah,
And I really love the fact that, people were saying like it's always new excitement and she doesn't really care. And then the fact that like people were like she's really only 24, that means she conquered Future and Trey Songz and had a fiance and all of this stuff, right?
Fiance.
Before she even in her 20s, like her early 20s, like we're not even talking about 25, right?
Yeah.
So I really love that. And in terms of like how does this apply to like Muslim women, in my mind it really means like do what makes you happy, fuck
Yeah.
what your auntie have to say. Like I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. I love my aunties. I know I always be throwing shade at the aunties. I really do love them. It's like, but you know, you always got that one who's criticizing you about like, oh, you should do this and oh, you should at least in our culture that there tends to be that auntie who like always gives like that unsolicited advice. And I can't lie that like before you're married, like it could be really upsetting and it could be, you know, when people are pressuring you to do X, Y, and Z versus like you pursuing your genuine best life. And so I think that's one thing that we can learn from her is in terms of like releasing your chains and your attachment to what people who really don't matter in terms of how happy you are with your life and letting it go and doing your own thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because did you see that video of her mom before she went out to college, and her mom was trying to tell her and school her, and we know her dad wrote, what was it, Think Like a Lady, Act Like a Man, or whatever,
Yeah,
listen up the title. But that book was like rooted in misogynistic, like old school dating
it
behavior, and
was.
clearly Lori Harvey took everything right and created her own life, and like is like this is the way I'm living. Is very open about it, as you can tell, because I think she's brought all these booze to her family gatherings. You know, we saw Michael B. Jordan over here trying to blow out some candles with her. And she's like, hold back, sit back. And another thing about like how I noticed that she doesn't really care about what people think is that she posts people to her main grid and deletes them like it never happened. So
Right?
it's like she does not care, bruh. She's
Yeah.
like, you made it to the main grid, but I will delete you. And she's known to like unfollow people when she stops dating them. So
Yeah.
we'll discuss that a little further.
Yeah, for sure.
You hit on some great points about the aunties because I know when I was her age, I was definitely listening to them and they definitely gave me horrible advice. So
Yeah.
really like the answers are within you. You know,
Always. Like if you get quiet enough, for sure. We're not even gonna go into that in this
yeah.
episode, but yeah, for sure. You have to. And here's the thing: like I definitely have some aunties who, in terms of like setting up my life and being like a responsible young woman, like
Yeah,
invaluable feedback, right?
for sure.
But you by yourself have to understand that you're not gonna be a clone copy of anybody. So you take what applies and you throw away what doesn't, right? You like, thank you for the advice, then you keep it pushing, but you can't be afraid to reinvent yourself and
Mhm.
to go after what makes you happy, which gets us into our second tip. But I want you to get into this one because
Yeah. So, you know, when we were examining it, we were like, yo, what's the opposite of love? And it's not hate, it's fear, right?
yeah,
And then
yes,
our you know friend of the pod, as I wish she would be, you know, if she was still alive, but Nina Simone said that freedom is truly an absence of fear,
yeah,
right? And this
yeah,
girl walks around with finesse. Like there is an absolute level of freedom that we examine. Granted, we don't know her personal life, and I want to
of
kind of
course,
like inject that every single time we say something, right?
right.
But from what we're examining, she just moves with abundance. Like she moves with the idea that love, by giving love, she's not losing out on anything, right? And sometimes we like to hoard or hold on to love because you feel like people are not deserving, but
Yes.
it's really kind of creating kind of a canker or sore within you, right? Because
Mhm.
love is in abundance. It's something that you should be giving. You should be practicing it in every modality of every relationship that you have, right? From
Yeah,
siblings to your mama to your friends. Like just that's something that I've been working on of Nan is just, you know, I think growing up in you know, these East African households, our parents were like, I feed you, I clothe you, the lights are on, bruh. I love you, you know? But
that's it.
that was it. But they didn't say I love you, right? And so something that I've been working on is just like, yo, just profess it. Just be like, I love you, okay? And
It
just do
don't cost you nothing.
yeah, it costs you nothing. And really, well, I'd be like, ooh, I'm uncomfortable, right?
Yeah,
But I'm like, I want to work through that discomfort. And when
yeah, that's
girl
awesome.
Lori, like I just see she's posting who she wants. She's over here in the pool with Future, you know, like posting people in their stories. And it just shows that she has an absence of fear regarding
Yeah,
this. And she did in the one interview that I saw that when she spoke, because I was like, I gotta hear this girl's voice, right?
right.
She was like, Mom, I got this. Right? She has an
You said you have nothing to worry
she has
about.
nothing to worry about. And I don't think she's an enigma in the sense that when she goes through maybe some heartbreak, right? I think she does a good job from how we swiftly see her move from one relationship to the next, of like knowing, hey, there's someone else out there. Like, I know that I'm worth a level of, or I deserve a level of care and compassion that I want. And if someone's not able to give that to me, then I'm moving on.
Ah, mhm.
So
I
that's
love what you said yesterday.
yeah.
Yeah, I love what you said yesterday. You said she knows that she can have a snow fight and there's going to be another snow fight with another sexy man next year.
Did I say that? These jokes that I come up with, these
I had literally wrote that down. And I think that's so right. Like going back to her page, right? I think it's really amazing that she doesn't operate in this current relationship in terms of what the future will mean and what the past will mean, right?
nope.
And I really love that you said that yesterday. She's letting us into her love life in a way that very clearly shows that she's in the present moment, which I think is really, really important. I think oftentimes as women, we're thinking so much about what the present moment means in context of other people's perceptions and in terms of what that means about who we are as people, who we are as women, who we are as Muslims, who we are as spiritual women. And I think that she does a really great job, again, from what we can see, right? That she's very much just living her best life
Yeah.
and doing what makes her happy, which is amazing, right?
Amazing. Now,
Yeah.
take lessons, right? Because we want to examine this with the spiritual, rooted, kind of Muslima lens, right? So the way that we see that, like she's moving on, right? And like absence of fear and knowing that she gives everything in the present moment her all, right? But then she knows that there's not an absence of love, that if this doesn't work out and doesn't, come to fruition what she wanted, then that she can move on, And so again, she is 24 years young. She's probably not looking to get married, but she was engaged at some point when she was younger to the
Yeah.
soccer player. So I think she's moving along in her life like there's not an absence here. There's
Yeah.
abundance of both suitors that are interested in her, right? And that if someone doesn't meet her criteria, someone else will.
Yep.
Yeah.
Period. I love that. And that takes us actually into our third lesson that we've learned from her, which is that she is the prize. And I love this one because I think as women, we know this. We've been getting a lot more of this from the media, but like, to manage our self-worth and to be thoughtful about pursuing versus chasing. This is a phrase that you used when we were doing our planning meeting, Farah, and I really like that how you phrase this, right? I think going back to the first lesson, right? I think pursuing is based out of love, right? Like, oh, I believe I'm deserving. I believe I'm worthy. I believe I will have. And so I pursue, right? With healthy boundaries. But chasing, on the other hand, is relentless
Yeah.
and maybe ignores signs that it's not the best thing for us, or actually isn't even what we really want. But just for the sake of whatever energy that we're feeling, whether it's inadequacy or whether it's fear or whatever the case may be. So pursuing versus chasing. I think she pursues,
Yeah.
and we don't know the details, right? Of exactly if they're so interested in her that they come into her world or she expresses their interest in them, however that goes. But I really like that kind of balance. And I think her understanding her worth helps her walk and talk and move in this universe to where she knows that she's got the it sauce, right? And her mom also said that too, which is, maybe an indication that she's been getting that message a lot from when she was younger, that, baby girl, it's you, you're not even just gold and platinum, you're the best of the best, and to carry yourself that way. And I think that Islam also does a good job of having like really amazing examples in our history in terms of women's worth, right? And so Khadija vibes, hashtag Khadija
I
vibes.
was like, second.
Right. So, if you guys, don't know, Khadija actually pursued the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So, she was an older woman and she decided that she liked his character and she decided to express her interest in him. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think Islamically, we get things mixed up with culture, which are two completely different things. And Islamically, there's nothing wrong with the woman expressing interest in the man that she has, or the man that she's interested in having, excuse me. And I think that Lori has some characteristics of that in the sense of her fearlessness, going back to number 2 and number 1, of being honest enough with herself. That's like, hey, this is something I'm interested in. I'm going to go for it.
Exactly. And so that's totally it. And when we think about the prophetic tradition, this is all up and through it, right? These women who are self assured, who aim higher and know what they deserve, right? And then also are like, they're demanding more. And so when I look back at like my earlier dating history, I look back at the times that I stayed quiet or didn't request anything out of not fear, but maybe it was rooted in fear around like, oh, I don't want to dishevel what could be going on or bring up something that I know that I want more of, but just out of fear, I decide to stay quiet. And
Yeah.
so I think she's going into it, right? As we examine her from the outside in, that she's going in and knowing that she wants more, is self-assured that she deserves it and that she's the prize and that she's deserving of exactly what she wants. And she's demanding it, of course, I'm sure not in a rude way, but is requesting of her needs.
In a way that, I mean, she's getting it. I mean, she's in the relationships that many people want to be in. So like I said,
Exactly.
she's doing something right.
Exactly. So that, and I think that's a big thing, and you told me this one time. I think, I was talking to someone and I asked you for advice and you're like, yo, it's written for you, bruh. So anything that you could say that you feel like is going to ruin a situation, it's not going to ruin it. It's yours if it's yours.
Right.
And
Right.
so go ahead. Of course, you want to do it with, the best adab, the best behavior, right? And the best intentions, but you request your needs, right?
Yeah.
And what's there to lose? A person? Bruh, there's 7 billion of them. Okay.
Exactly. And I want to be honest, right? Like I definitely know it's easier to say than to do,
For
right? Like I definitely realize, and I was in that place at one point myself where,
sure.
I really, really wanted to be married,
Mhm.
right? I was very much interested, and I couldn't see it in front of me. There wasn't like a whole bunch of like men. I was just like, oh, I could choose him or him or him at the time, at least from where I was in my life, my environment, who I was around all the time, et cetera. Right. And I remember that I had to, right before I actually met Fred, I had to release it and realize that if Allah destined it for me, he could FedEx me a man from overseas
Tomorrow.
overnight,
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
And for me, and I'm going to be very transparent, it took one of those instances for me to understand that, right? Like
Mhm.
it went from a random moment of like I was totally by myself. I wasn't really pursuing anything. I really wanted to be married. And then I was introduced through family to a potential husband.
Yeah.
And he, at the time, this is before I met Fred, obviously, he checked all the boxes. And it was crazy because he had literally come from overseas. He was studying abroad and working, to save up his money and then come back.
Mhm.
And he also was like close enough to the family that my family really liked the idea. Right. And then the other thing is, out of all the places he was moving, he moved to DC, which was really close to where I was. And he happened to be moving right as I was getting ready to transition to another part of my life. So I mean, obviously things didn't work out and there's no love lost. But what that showed me in that situation was that, because I was praying really, really hard, I believe Allah gave me a sign to say, see what I can do for you, sis. Like, just because you can't see him doesn't mean he's not out there, right? Doesn't mean like I don't have the perfect guy for you that I can literally, in my mind, I literally said FedEx overnight to you from anywhere in the world,
Yeah.
right? Who could answer your prayers, right? And connections that your prayers could never have imagined, your du'as could never have anticipated. And
Yeah.
so that was really powerful for me. And I'm glad that I had that experience, because anytime my faith is a little weak, because, we all have those moments. I
Uh-huh.
think back to, the Allah that I know, the God that I know, my creator is able to make those miracles to us, right,
Mm.
happen. And
Yeah.
if I really believe in that and I let go of like, I have to find him on my own,
Yeah.
right? Which as a control freak, I have to work on
There
consistency
too, sis.
between,
Yeah.
yeah, between like co-creating and me being like the master of my soul, right? And so I say that to share that with others who may be in that place now, that I'm not like just trying to preach at you like, oh, just wait, sis, because that shit is hard. This shit is hard to
It
like
is.
to see. I remember being there with like friends where getting married, and I'm like, damn, when is it going to be my time? Because I had zero
Yeah.
prospects on the horizon, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to share that. I think having that energy about you keeps you open to those opportunities, because when you're rooted in that fear, or when you're rooted in that like negative space, sometimes unintentionally you can close off the moments that could lead to a lasting love. Does that make sense?
No, and it's really rooted in being certain in our creator, right? And not recently, but like a little while ago, I decided to like, there was an ex, I was like, I'm done. Like, leave me alone. No pop-up text messages,
Yeah.
blocked him on everything.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Look,
because
look.
block, block, block. Cause I know I was like, he's surveilling me.
Yeah.
And then wallahi, like as soon as I closed that door, the next day Allah like brought someone who checked off
All
everything.
the box.
And it just, that situation, you're unsure of like what's coming of that, but it just gave me like less about that person, more about Allah and his
Yeah.
ability to leave gifts and prizes for you at any moment, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's really like having certainty in our creator. And I've expressed this especially on Clubhouse. I love Clubhouse because that information leaves as soon as you say it, you know?
Yeah.
There's no trail.
There's no trace,
Like,
there's no record.
there's no choice, there's no record. So you can be a little more vulnerable on that platform. You look at like who's listening, you're like, okay, they're not
I
listening.
can tell you, I can tell
I
you.
can tell y'all the business, right? But yeah, it's you just have no idea. And I personally have kind of an issue around, or I'm working around kind of trusting Allah and having more tawakkul of Allah's plan. You
Yeah.
know, like we have God consciousness, and I think that's probably the easiest. Tawakkul is something I think is probably a harder aspect of faith, of like really relinquishing and surrendering. And
So
that's my word of 2021, surrender. Because it's
really,
that is my word. I was like, I'm not going to do goals. My main intention this year is to surrender and to
yeah,
like be on Allah's like magic carpet. You know, I'm
yeah,
Aladdin up in this place. Like
yeah.
I'm gonna ride.
Yeah. As a resource to you guys, but I unintentionally put me on like this Oprah train that really helped me like understand it. And so while Oprah, for example, obviously is not Muslim, I think she breaks down her experience with her creator in a way that a lot of modern Muslims can understand if you're not like super versed or whatever the case may be, or you're just looking to try to get your mind wrapped around it.
No,
There is a YouTube video where she is doing an empowerment speech for Essence. And she talks about how she really wanted the color purple. And she talks through, her drive of like, I'm gonna get it, her like intensity around trying to get this role. And then her hitting a wall, which she felt like she then had to release it because it was consuming her. And the minute she released it, she got a call from Steven Spielberg. So if you guys haven't seen that and you're trying to figure out like, okay, well, this is something I'm working on too. Like if not, I'm working on, but if it's something that you as a listener are working on, that's something I would definitely recommend. So maybe we can like link that or something. But
for sure.
I love that. I love that.
You know, as we go into number 4, and this is kind of in the realm of my word of 2021 around surrender, but it's around detachment, right? Like,
Mm,
and you know a lot about this, right? Especially with Louise Hayes and affirmations and manifestations. But the idea of like, that this is what's coming to you, right? But then also not holding on to it, right?
yeah.
And with Lori Harvey, she what looks like has masterfully created a space, a paradigm, if you will, a vacuum
Yeah.
where things are happening at a rate that I don't completely understand, but
Yeah.
is like moving around with no baggage. And if
Mhm.
she does have baggage, she's giving them to these niggas, right? She's like, hold my bag. you know and so I'm sure she's going in, she's examining herself. She's 24 too, so
Mhm.
I do think that the brain doesn't fully develop. Data has suggested until you're around 24, but she's
Yeah.
learning lessons around like moving forward, right? And like being of I posted this on Instagram one day. I was like, I'm rooted but I flow, right? And so it's this
Yeah.
idea of like, you have your morals, you have your values, but you're not like anchored so deeply in
Yeah.
that you're not willing to evolve within your life, right? And then
Mhm.
take these experiences and learning lessons. And
Yeah.
that's another thing, like life is all about being in relation with people. And
Mhm.
so to think that you're not going to be hurt, or that things are not going to go exactly the way that you want it, would be
Yeah.
asinine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm reading this book and I'm getting very Trump-like vibes from this author. So I'm about to
Wait,
delete.
wait, what
I'm
book?
like the subtle art of not giving.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
And he's giving me Trump vibes. So I was about to turn it off. But I recently got the public library card. I renewed my card, and they
Yes.
forget Audible. Audible costs $14.99 a month, and
Yeah.
this thing is free. So I was like, never
Yeah.
again. But he
Yeah.
says that what's guaranteed in life is suffering, and the idea is like, who will you suffer with, you know? And
Period.
suffering. And he goes, you have questions, you answer the questions, right?
Mhm.
But then you have more questions. That's life. And if you're not willing to evolve, right, and move on and detach from previous experiences around current present ones, or what you want for
Yeah.
yourself, you will
Mhm.
be stuck. You will literally be stuck. And
Yeah.
so life, dating, relationship, we're all in relation with each other, both on like the self, the community,
Mhm.
globally, nationally, we're in relation with each other. And
Right.
so if of course we want things for ourselves, right? But then as we move, like we have to be able to flow with the experience of life. And I think that's what detachment is knowing what's coming for you, but like moving on with a high self-regard that whatever's coming for you will come, and it will be the best thing for you.
Yeah. And that goes back to the spirituality thing. And that's really, really hard. Like
Mhm.
as much as I know that, it's not as easy to live in it,
Mhm.
right? Especially when you're trying to find the balance between, like, we talk about dry eye manifestation all the time. And I think Camellia did a really great job in explaining that, our friend of the pod. We love her. Mashallah. So, she was talking about how you go for the things that you really want, right? From a place of love. And again, all of these things are like tying right back into each other, right?
Abundance. Yeah.
Yes. And then when Allah is redirecting you, it might look like opposition. It might look like, damn, a door is slamming in my face. But if you're so focused on the one in front of you, you're trying to get into, you may not see, girl, you got 5 more that you can walk through. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah. So I love the way that you kind of illustrated that in terms of like being open to your next blessing, because it's super true. And that actually takes us into our next one, right?
Yeah.
In terms of like, as you're making your journey through from one blessing to another, with baggage or without, right? Like, I think that Lori Harvey does a really great job in terms of enhancing her own natural beauty,
Yeah.
right? Like when she steps out, you see a full, at least from what we can see, right?
Yeah.
You see like a full woman who has taken energy, time, investment into making herself, looking her best. And it really just exudes confidence. And I think, Islam also encourages us as spiritual and believing women to
Yeah.
make sure that we're doing that work ourselves, right? And so I loved how, you had talked about earlier about making sure that you're holding your head up high and your shoulders back and then walking with confidence.
Yeah.
I think in terms of like loving ourselves from the inside, but also treating ourselves with respect and dignity on the outside as well. Like, are you getting good sleep? Right. And it's like the obvious things, but they do so much. Like when your mental is right and your routines are right
Yeah.
and your spirituality is right. And then like you're actually taking care of yourself, you're exercising, you're moving your body or whatever feels good to
Yeah.
you. Like you are unmatched,
Unmatched.
right?
Yeah. And so I love this group called the Nap Ministry. They are my absolute favorite. I think in a capitalistic society where we choose productivity over relaxation, they
Yeah.
call relaxation and taking care of yourself and self-care as an act of resistance. So when you were talking, I was just like, oh man, I also feel for the people who need 2 or 3 jobs to sustain themselves and their families, right? But like
Yeah.
it is literally an act of resistance to take care of yourself,
Yeah.
right? And when you have the ability to have moments of rest, relaxation, yoga, whatever it is for you, whatever your healing practice is, take that moment. And I think what we know that she's probably, not to demonize her, but she's enhanced herself in ways that probably cost money, right? But
Yeah.
like when we look at it, and if that's what you want to do, you do it, right?
Yeah.
Right. There are plenty of resources, but I think what Afnan and I, what we're kind of talking about is like enhancing yourself on the spiritual. Go to therapy if you can, or a life coach, right? Write in a journal daily to reflect on your thoughts. Do affirmations. There's so many things that you could be doing. And I also wanted to touch on how Black women are like over sexualized in our
Yeah.
culture, right? And so even the things that we wear can be considered, more, we could be fully clothed and it's considered like, oh, that sis is voluptuous. And it's like, sis, I got a jalabia on, like, leave me alone,
Right.
right? Right? So we're often told as Black women to shrink ourselves because
Yeah.
we have stature a lot of the time, right? Whether it's height, whether it's our body, whether it's our physique, whether it's our
Right.
skin, it's just something that people try to exoticize, and it's
Yeah.
not cute, sis, right? Like when people try to do that to us. So our goal in saying that she enhances herself is to like hold yourself high in high regard, roll those shoulders back. And this is I in middle school or high school, I think my friends and in jest, right, would call me Gretchen, right? Because I had the glasses, I was studying hard, my shoulders would be tense, right? Gretchen from recess. So it's just like, relax, put them shoulders back, like get to know yourself. Who are you? Like look at yourself in the mirror, like what do you want? And that might be the hardest question you ask yourself, is what do you want, and articulate that. So
Yeah.
when enhancing yourself, just be committed to you and your relaxation, your tranquility, your
Yeah.
needs and your wants. Because if you're not good, sis, ain't
Yeah.
nobody good. Like you can't take
Yeah.
care of the people in your life.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I love that you ended on that, because as women, we always want to give. We're socialized and conditioned to give all the time. And the fact of the matter is, you just can't give from an empty cup. And I
Yeah.
know that like women who take really, really good care of themselves get flack. But at the end of the spectrum, sometimes, women who don't invest as much time, energy in the way that society says, they're also demonized at the same time. And so it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. But the point of what we're trying to say is that, be fearless in how you care for yourself, going back to rule number one, regardless of what other people think, right? You want to, you want to do that facial, sis, go do that facial. You want to get your massage, go do the massage. You want to, enhance yourself to where you feel good. Like, honestly, there's nothing I feel like I can't do when I have clean hair and fresh eyebrows and a massage. Like, I just,
That's
yeah,
if my house is clean, ooh,
yeah,
I'm stepping out,
yeah. And all of those are correct and completely amazing ways to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think, like, and every time she shows up on my timeline, you could just see that, like, at least with what it seems like is like this piece about her, about like, I know who I am, I know how I'm moving in this world, I know what I value and what I don't, and I'm here, like, all the way here. And I just love that. I just love that. So I'm super,
From Lori Harvey. She's the
yeah.
goat in my book. She's the goat.
You can't deny it. The girl know what the hell she's doing, because that 24 child.
The finesse. Mashallah. I'm gonna give her a mashallah. Like
Yeah.
that's it. We love it. We love to see
Yeah.
it.
So those are our 5 tips. We're going to recap them really quickly in case that you missed them. So number 1 is don't care about what people think. Let go of your auntie slick comments, sis. Okay. Number 2 is that she's fearless. She's not afraid to pursue what she wants and what makes her happy. And she knows that where one man walks off or is not in her life anymore, she will have another. And that applies to every area of our life. Number 3 is that she is the prize. She has self-worth. She's not so much chasing as she is pursuing. And that can again extend to other parts of your life as well. Healthy detachment is number 4, right? So that she's present in this moment, she's fully immersed in this moment without overthinking what's going to happen in the future, what's happening in the past. And then number 5 is that she enhanced her natural beauty and really, really prioritizes self-care, which we all really appreciate. So I love this conversation. This was super fun. Not nearly as fun and as interesting as our Clubhouse conversation that happened last night.
Yeah.
So yeah, so if you guys love our episodes, we're on Clubhouse every week, where we're just having a conversation about whatever our topic is or other topics that may come up. So if you guys are not on our Clubhouse, make sure that you guys join us at Rooted Black Girl. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time. Peace.